go ahead and run through the deal of the week. For today is November 7th. I have a pretty interesting one today. This one's out in Berryville, Virginia. So hitting some of those Virginia multifamily properties. Very unique here. We got what was an old single-family house built in 1887. They have converted it into a triplex, but it's almost even actually a quadplex because there's a big storage shed in the back that has some rental income potential. What I'm seeing here, just looking through it quickly, you do have the 4 units, one of them being 2-bedroom, two of them being a 1-bedroom, and then one being a kind of studio style. That's the shed out in the back. Pretty neat, pretty big size, definitely in reasonable-ish condition. We'll take a look at the pictures here in a second. But you got the 3 apartments plus the little workshop area. What is something I do want to highlight, it does have a residential zoning on this one, but it's actually been verified as an exception. So they do point out that the property is technically zoned R1 residential, but if you scroll on down to the bottom, their determination 218 can continue the non-conforming use as 3 apartments. So a lot of features there. You don't see non-conforming uses too often, but if you ever did change it to a single family, they won't let you change it back. So something to keep in mind there. Going back to take a look through what we got here. Pretty large property, decent little lot and space there. Everything is, a little bit dated, but it does seem to be upkept relatively nicely. Got some decent sized rooms, even some decent bathrooms. A lot of woodwork, a lot of exposed beams through this property, which I personally am a fan of. But then you also still have some things like wallpaper that you want to get rid of. It is a little bit more dated. Some of the bathrooms, right, don't have the standalone shower. More like the tub style. But nice exposed beams, some fireplaces around. Decent, cool looking place here for sure. Does have some laundry down in the basement that you can access from one of the units. And then here is that back workshop shed kind of space. So probably want to do a little bit of renovations to this area, but you do have what is technically a bathroom back here, a little bit of laundry space, and a little kitchenette as well. So maybe a cool little unique Airbnb or something like that if you wanted to go down that route. All right, but pretty unique property here. But that's what I like to bring for you guys. If we look at some of the recent sales, now this one's a hard property comp. I did look at it 2 different ways. One just as a single family house, and then one as a multifamily. Okay. If you just look at older single family homes that have sold in the area, you got some that are much, much smaller going for $350, $390. Then a couple larger ones, one that did get $520 and one that's sitting out there at $530 right this second. Now, again, all of those are smaller than this property, but some are, a little more updated or not. From the multifamily side of things, there were a few of those as well. You're looking at one that sold for $800,000. Now that was like a 6 unit, so not quite a great comp. Then you got another one here that was more of a duplex, more modern duplex, newer build, 1985, 2 3-bedroom, 2 baths. So also a little bit different, certainly than what we're dealing with here. So honestly, a pretty hard property comp, but looking at it from a numbers perspective, I think 500 is a relatively fair price. But I wouldn't be surprised if this one sits around for a little bit just because it's kind of unique. On the rental side of things, looking at those details, for the 2 bedrooms, seeing anywhere of about $1,500 up to a couple grand. Now the ones that are actually renting are all hovering around that $1,500 price point. So that's the number I used. My analysis, if you look at the 1-bedroom units, you got one that did rent for also $1,500 and then one at $1,200. So trying to be a little more conservative on those. Looked at about $1,000 for myself for my numbers. When I ran it, I looked at $1,500, $1,000, $1,900 for that kind of back area. I do think there's definitely opportunity to increase all these rents if you improve the quality and condition of some of the place. Doing things like modernizing bathrooms, things like that. But kind of as is, try to be conservative. If you're looking at $500,000, 20% down, taxes are quite low actually here, which is helping make the numbers look a little stronger. Factor in your insurance. I did also factor in $600 a month in utilities. Now that might, mileage may vary there depending on kind of how you set things up. But obviously, if you can bill your tenants for the utilities, you can make these numbers look a heck of a lot stronger even. But with that, they're still looking decent. You got $200 to $700 a month on the cash flow side of things. Definitely had a decent DSCR loan ratio. And from a cash on cash perspective, looks like you're about 115 grand to buy this one, hitting somewhere in the 2.7 up to 3% range. Now, again, the big key here is trying to do something about those utilities or build back to the tenants, or maybe just get those rents a little bit higher. And then the numbers certainly look a bit stronger. From future wealth potential, really strong here. Looking at almost $2 million, 30 years down the line. But of course, we always compare it to the stock market, make sure it's worth our while to take on this extra effort. And you're outpacing the stock market even 30 years into the future. So, really strong property numbers wise. I'm really liking this one. Let me know what you think.